Oliver.
Hey.
I want to put a name behind the face. Bobby Williams.
Hi. Nice to see you.
How you doing?
I'm good. Appreciate you. Thanks. You're welcome.
We'll do lunch next week. Have fun.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Appreciate all your goodness.
All right. Thanks. You know the wireless codes in the city? Council Mondays? Where do we put the, Danny, which one is it? No, which one? Which one do I try to pick? USB guest? Stressful, but I'm getting there. I said stressful. I got more paper to do this week, but I'm getting there. I went home to Alabama.
How was that?
That was good. Said my aunt died, and then my cousin died. He's in his 60s. So, that was just like.
Make a comment on it.
I'm real tired.
Okay, so we're gonna move on.
The heat doesn't help either. Hey, can we have crank down the air like 10 degrees?
I think the 5-4 vote is really a good thing. I haven't called nobody. So that's not cool. Huh? I know. It's just, I'm not gonna say either. I'm gonna, all my people when they come out there, I'm gonna go out there and hang out with them. So no, I'm not gonna stay out there with him. Yeah. Because the bottom line is it's time to work on downtown. We don't need no more business in downtown, and it's gonna take too long. No.
I'm so glad Bush is on. He's gonna let Lewis on. She told me he wasn't. She said he didn't qualify. She said 135 or something about it. And I told her, I said, oh no, he got to be so she's on the list.
Who? Who's Sidney Peach? Oh, yes.
Peach Miller or something.
Yes, sorry. Yes. Sorry, my brain's gone. I do apologize. She's here.
Scott's lucky in here.
Where is the resolution? Karima, you have the resolution?
She probably has it.
Yeah.
Okay, she'll bring them.
Bianca does? Okay. Oh, neat.
We got about 3 minutes. Ooh, it's so hot in here. Everybody wait.
3 minutes.
Oh, no.
Somebody got
Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, the First Amendment right.
Star was told she was going to be on the
He's got the golden hat. Well, that's the part of it. You got a hat like that, Dave? You know.
Okay,
Champion?
okay.
Oh, St. Louis.
Mr. Kenny.
Guards. There we go. How many years ago?
I forgot. Me. She was told she was going to be senator, and then they're playing games with her and the government down there. Let's do the government.
Well, we lost their...
What they saying now?
Hold on a second.
But don't they vote for that?
Well, yeah, they changed the rules.
You know they do.
I know, they did to me when I was in student government there too.
So it's really stopping.
Okay, hold on a second.
We'll make sure they end it. We're going to amend the rules, I think, every next time. We need to get it, yeah.
I mean, she did it. Where? No.
There's that 1 minute.
Yeah, no, I know.
Sharon. Sharon. Ready to go.
These are the offense versus the
Look on the...
Are you ready? Good evening. Good evening. The Monday, April 23rd Common Council meeting is now in session. Our invocation is by Larry Dwyer of the Baha'i Faith. Thank you, sir, for coming. Would you all please stand?
O my God, verily I invoke thee and supplicate before thy threshold, asking thee that all thy mercies may descend upon these souls. Specialize them for thy favor and thy truth. O thou kind Lord, thou hast created all humanity from the same stock. Thou hast decreed that all shall belong to the same household. In thy holy presence they are all thy servants, and all mankind are sheltered beneath thy tabernacle. All have gathered together at thy table of bounty. All are illumined through the light of thy providence. O thou kind Father God, gladden our hearts through the fragrance of thy love. Brighten our eyes through the light of thy guidance. Delight our ears with the melody of thy word, and shelter us all in the stronghold of thy providence. Thou art the mighty and powerful. Thou art the forgiving, and thou art the one who overlooketh the shortcomings of all mankind.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated.
the band.
Would you please turn your cell phones to silent? Thank you.
Notre Dame.
Ms. Fowler, roll call.
He was at Notre Dame.
Present.
Councilmember McBride.
Present.
Councilmember Broden.
Here.
Councilmember Barner.
Present.
Vice President Davis.
Present.
Councilmember Bordy.
Present.
Councilmember Furley.
Here.
Councilmember White.
Present.
President Scott.
Present.
9 present.
Thank you. Report on subcommittee minutes, please.
Mr. President.
To the Common Council of the City of South Bend, the subcommittee has inspected the minutes of the April 9th, 2018 meeting of the Common Council and found them to be correct. Therefore, we recommend the same be approved.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Actually, Mr. President,
Discussion.
we have a correction to make of a single word on page 23. I can give it to the clerk rather than,
That's fine.
I will give it to you. It's including a word to change a positive statement into a negative statement or change the...
I concur.
Thank you.
As the subcommittee of minutes, we recommend...
amended.
Amended.
So, second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Special business. Ms. Fowler, would you please read 1813?
1813, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, commemorating and thanking Cindy Peach Miller on the occasion of her retirement.
Thank you. Is there a presenter?
Ms. Miller?
There she is.
Okay. Ha-ha. Oliver Davis, 1801 Nash Street, South Bend, Indiana. 6th District Representative, glad to be here to present this resolution. Resolution 4706-18. A resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, commemorating and thanking Cindy Peach Miller on the occasion of her retirement. Whereas Cindy Peach Miller has devoted the past 38 years of her life to teaching others how to stay fit, including 27 years at the Y, an additional 18 years at South Bend O'Brien Fitness Center. And whereas Cindy's interest in physical fitness began when she and her mother watched Jack LaLanne exercise classics on black and white television. And whereas Cindy continued her interest in assisting others to achieve physical fitness by teaching aerobics classes. And whereas Cindy expanded her interest by becoming certified to teach and working in the weight room of the Y. And whereas during those 38 years, Cindy helped educate others and manage their expectations with the goal of helping South Bend residents maintain their own commitment to staying physically fit and healthy. And whereas Cindy's commitment and attitude have affected many, resulting in long and healthy friendships, and whereas Cindy's commitment to the residents of South Bend is demonstrated by her LinkedIn profile, which lists her interests, City of South Bend. And whereas Cindy's commitment to others is also demonstrated by her volunteer work helping pre-kindergarten classes at St. Jude's Catholic Church School. And whereas Cindy's retirement will allow her to spend more time with her husband, Terry, and his sons, Joshua and Christopher, and her sons, Joey and Jeff, and grandchildren, James, Jonathan, and Janessa. Okay, thank you. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the Common Council of the City of South Bend of Indiana as follows. Section 1. The South Bend Common Council proudly commemorates and thanks Cindy Peach Miller on the occasion of her retirement. Section 2. The Common Council wishes Cindy and her family much happiness as she begins a new chapter of her life. Section 3. This resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its adoption by the Common Council and approved by the mayor. And we are glad to have her tonight here. Any of your family members here? Anybody else here with me? Oh, can you please come forward? I know. Come on.
Bring them on up.
Yeah. Oh, you can take pictures right up here. We have other people take pictures of you too. We're glad again to honor her for her years of service. We want to continue to honor those who have worked in the city of South Bend, and we're thankful. We wanted to make sure that we wanted to recognize you as you start this new chapter in your life. Thank you for coming here. Appreciate it. You have work in the city first, and then
Any words?
Pardon me?
Any words from,
I just want to thank you for honoring me in such a special way. I so appreciate it.
thank you. Thank you.
Very prestigious honor to deserve it.
Thank you.
I really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
We'll start with comments from council. Ms. Regina Preston-Williams.
I need you, don't go! Thank you so much for attending to the health of this community. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ms. McBride.
Wonderful job, well done. I've had the privilege of working with you in the capacity, so
I
I
remember you. Thank you.
admire your service and commitment to this community, and happy retirement and much blessings to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your service to our community, and best wishes in your retirement. Best is yet to be.
Thank you.
I actually remember your time at the Y, so it goes back quite a ways.
Thank you.
Because you had two great careers, apparently. Congratulations. Enjoy your retirement. You'll have a good time.
Mr. Bordy.
Thank you. It shouldn't come as a surprise that I didn't know who you were, because I didn't frequent either one of those places. Congratulations. Apparently you did wonderful things.
Thank you, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, and I just recently retired, and a word of wisdom, learn to say no. In terms of your retirement, please take some time just to relax, enjoy your family, and again, thank you so much for all that you've done for us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Cindy. John Bordy and I work out together, so thank you so much. It's something to say about not only career but giving back. So we completely appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we'll open up to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of 1813, please come to the podium. Seeing none, anyone wanting to wrestle past everybody to speak against 1813, please come to the podium. Seeing none, turn it back to council.
Move the unanimous adoption of this resolution. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Enjoy your retirement.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Gotta find somebody retired.
No fault about it.
Thank you for 6 years of retirement. You want me to make it? And then explain.
It's not the words, right? You gotta figure like you make people happy every other week. Making other people happy.
Pilates.
Notice she's got one foot.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. At this time, we do not have any reports from city offices.
Mr. President, I'd like to make...
Laura O'Sullivan from the mayor's office is here representing the mayor. So, at this time,
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion we suspend the rules so we can rearrange the order of business in order to take care of
resolutions first.
resolutions first.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. For the audience, what we've just done was we've moved resolutions ahead of bills. So, Bill 1418 and Resolution 1815 have been continued to 529 and 514 respectively. So what this means is we'll move resolutions to the top of the order, get those out of the way, and then we can proceed with 0518, which I'm sure most of you are here. So with that, Ms. Fowler, are you ready for resolutions?
Yes.
If you would please read 1816.
1816, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving an agreement extending the St. Joseph County Housing Consortium and authorizing the execution thereof.
Thank you. Is there a presenter? Ms. Fowler, if you could move your microphone a little closer, that'd be great.
I'm not presenting that, no.
Thank you. Presenter.
Pam Meyer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Committee report.
Committee report, please.
Community investment sends us forward favorably.
All right, thank you. Now presenter.
Pam Meyer with the Department of Community Investment, offices on the 14th floor of this building. The resolution before you will authorize the mayor to sign an interlocal agreement between St. Joe County, the city of Mishawaka, and the city of South Bend. This follows a historical agreement that was started in 1991 and allows home funding, which is a federal program for housing low and moderate income individuals. Allows those funds to come into the community at a larger dollar amount. The agreement is for 3 years, and they always have been, so we are just renewing the agreement for another 3 years. It expires at the end of this year, but we are required by HUD regulations to submit everything before June 1st.
Thank you. Questions from council?
Yes, just two.
Ms. Broden?
With regard to the allocation of administrative funds that is referenced in this, what is the actual dollar amount that other units contribute to the staffing time as the lead agency, to us as the lead agency or lead entity?
South Bend is the lead agency, and what happens is we receive a treasury amount in a total amount of dollars. Of that, we have agreed among the 3 jurisdictions that $45,000 is the dollar amount that should we be able to prove time spent on home activities and tasks, that we could draw that money.
Okay, great. And then with regard to the membership and the meeting times, how frequently does the membership meet, and when are those?
It is generally determined on an annual basis, probably only 2 meetings a year, once in the spring, April, May timeframe, and once in the latter part of the year, September. Oftentimes, the April meeting may be canceled, as it was this year, because there was no business to conduct. The September or later meeting in the year is to review and approve the recommendations for funding for the next calendar year.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing, yes, Ms. Broden.
Just to follow up on that, are designees attending these meetings, or are the administrators?
Yes, no, there are two designees for each jurisdiction, appointed by the mayors of each community and by the president of the county commissioners, and then 2 staff members attend.
And those can change on an annual basis then?
At any
Or
point,
any point in
if
time?
any of those appointing officials wish to change them, yes.
All right. Would it be possible to get the names of those individuals to council? I appreciate it. Thanks. Good to know. It's a very important issue. But thank you for your answers.
Any other questions?
I do have an answer to the
Sure.
question of that was asked this afternoon at the
Cool.
committee meeting.
Thank you.
This is based on 2017.
Okay.
Because we don't have 2018
I understand.
yet. Basically, the total amount received was $734,817.
Okay.
Of that, 62% is based on the allocation that would come to South Bend, and that's about $454,000.
Okay. I appreciate knowing those numbers. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll open up to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of 1816, please come to the podium. Don't all rush. Anyone wanting to speak against 1816, please come to the podium. Seeing none, turn it back to council.
Move for the adoption?
Second.
Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember McBride?
Yay.
Councilmember Broden?
Aye.
Councilmember Varner?
Aye.
Vice President Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty?
Aye.
Councilmember Curley,
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Preston?
Aye.
President Scott?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. I was remiss. Can I entertain a motion for 1815, please?
Oh, motion for adoption of 1815?
No. Continue to
Motion to
5.
continue. 1815.
Second.
Yeah, sorry.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you.
Could you announce when that's going to be continued, please?
To 514.
Thank you.
Have petitioner's request, right?
Yeah, as petitioners requested. Ms. Fowler, 1817, please.
1817, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving renewal for the Human Rights Ordinance, interlocal agreement.
There's a committee report.
The Health and Public Safety Committee discussed this earlier this afternoon and gave it a favorable recommendation to full council.
Thank you. Is there a presenter?
Lonnie Douglas, Director of the South Bend Human Rights Commission. Our offices are located at 319 North Niles Avenue here in the city. And I arose to ask the council to please extend our ordinance that we had with St. Joseph County in terms of commission investigating charges of discrimination in St. Joseph County. We're asking this through December 31st, and at that time we'll be reassessed to see how far along we are. Right now, we're not able to say that we have enough cases to justify signing a further extension with them. We're going to ask them to put money in the pot, though, so that if we do find a way to get these cases, because our numbers are increasing. And as our numbers increase, we anticipate by the end of the year that we will have enough information to be able to make a firm commitment or statement concerning yay or nay.
Thank you. Questions? Vice President Davis.
What kind of numbers are you looking that will help justify the need for the county to do this?
Maybe.
One of the problems that we have is that...
Possible. And when you say numbers, is it just the cases itself? Because sometimes you mediate different situations. Not everything goes to trial or whatever, or goes to kind of things. So could you add that all?
Sure. I believe that was given in the report earlier this afternoon, but basically what that is the commission has been keeping track of the number of cases that we have intake and the number of cases that we increased. And our intake has gone up, and the number of cases that we're keeping here in this county has gone up. Based on the information that we provided, we now have 57 cases, I believe,
57.
in our quote-unquote files, and last year this time we had less than 40. So we're making that push, but a lot of those cases are coming because of the notoriety, if you will, that the commission got when we were trying to go countywide. Also, we are planning to do some quote-unquote advertisement in terms of what we're doing, how we're doing, and we're working with various agencies like Channel 28, 22, to see if we can get free spots to get that information out, because we know that they do that. And we will be using the South Bend Tribune as well to push this along so we can make everyone aware that we are a county agency. To date, a number of people do not know that, and we're trying to increase the number that do.
I understand it went from that to 57, but was there a particular target, like it goes to 60, it goes to 80, then you say this justifies that the county council should kick in more dollars? I mean, that's what I'm saying. What is the number that may be out there that it has to go to where the county kicks in? Because right now the funds are coming from the city council, from the city of South Bend. And so, and I believe with Ms. Walker having a lot of those cases we had talked about this afternoon, and maybe some others from the other county surrounding areas, within the county, what number is it? Do you have a target number for that?
We do not, because we have no anticipation of how high it's going to go. But if I had to offer you a number, I would say that if we could increase our caseload by 25 to 30%, that would be a very good number.
And then you could take that kind of a number and turn it into the position that we had open and argue for counties to come in to help us with that.
Correct. We have also, along those lines, brought in a part-time person who is temporary to assist us, because we've moved the person that was at the front desk into intake, and that shows us that the intakes are going up because we need the time for that person to do that, and we need more time for our investigators to investigate.
I appreciate what you're doing, and I just want the county to add their dollars to it. Thank you, sir.
Great. Ms. White?
Yes, I appreciate, the report, and as we prepare for the 2019 budget, which will start in May of this year, I would encourage you to work with administration, but also for the administration to work with the county because they're going to be developing their budget. I don't believe we can wait until the end of the year to anticipate what the impact can be in terms of additional cases. I can recall during the budget process, I was concerned about giving up a position, and I still remain concerned. And as we begin to see the uptick in the number of cases, which is great, but the city cannot, bear that total cost. So again, I would not wait until the end of the year. I think you need to have that data, but you begin to see that, increase. We need to prepare for it as well. And that includes the county as well.
We're very much aware of that, and we met with the county prior to coming to ask for this to happen, and the county is very much aware of how we feel, and we believe that they will be looking at putting money into their budget during this budget process to cover us if, in fact, we need a position from them.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions? Ms. Broden?
Doesn't any work merit staff time, resources,
With that.
regardless? You know what I'm saying? So
Yes, I do.
why isn't there a tab open right now with regard to county cases?
Well, the best way to answer that would be to say that according to what we do now, we do the work anyway. It's been a process. We turn no one away that comes to us with a problem. If it's a problem dealing with discrimination, we work with them to resolve it, whether it happens in South Bend, whether it happens in St. Joe County, Mishawaka, wherever it happens, we try to provide for them an avenue to receive relief for whatever they're suffering. However, I must mention the fact that by doing that work and intaking those cases for either EEOC or HUD, we do get compensated for same.
Okay, so the source of compensation is not the county. It is from a state or federal funding? Am I tracking that correctly?
You're tracking that correctly, but it's from the federal funding and it's only for intakes. Whereas if you were investigating a case, the payment you would receive for investigating a case is much higher than an intake.
Okay, so don't all intake cases, I assume intake is basic preliminary information and then there's a requisite follow-up, right? That involves staff time and expertise.
Yes and no. Even though we listen to anyone that walks into the office, we don't always take a charge when a person comes in and has a problem because we know the basis of our ordinance does not allow us to do that.
Good.
So currently, maybe help me understand what is going into the analysis for the 2019 budget to actually come up with a number, that differential between the intake that's already being paid, that will be paid for, and any follow-up after that.
Okay.
Because it says, just quoting from the cover letter, the interlocal agreement provides the potential for county cost participation in 2019 and thereafter.
Well, the reason for that is because in terms of the county, we must, if someone comes to us, whether they're from our city limits or not, we must, because of our federal contracts, at least sit down and speak to those people. And if we can assist them by pushing them on to federal agencies, we have to do that. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. So we normally have prepared to at least go through the intake phase. Now, if, in fact, we have to go further, that's where the county would come in, because if we're going further with county cases, which we're now able to investigate, the money we pay for the intake, the investigator, as well as sending out all of the correspondence and reviewing the data that you get back in, and then making a decision and taking it before the commission to make the final decision, is all entailed in that, and that's where the cost would come from.
So what kind of tracking, I guess, what type of metrics are being put in place for that intake plus piece, so that we are informed that what we ask of the county actually reflects a fair representation of what we think might be the number of cases, what staff might be involved in, the length of the time, those type of things. I mean, what kind of metrics? And I guess you don't have to answer that tonight. If you have that answer, great, but I think, my concern on this is that I value the service that we give to anybody who walks through the door, but I also think we have to be good stewards of the City of South Bend's budget, and particularly on any interlocal agreement, there's going to be a cost there somewhere. And at least you've described to me, it's reasonable to assume that there are costs there, and that there already are costs there that are being, that are occurring now. I just want to make sure that, as similar to Councilmember White, as we go into 2019, that we are collecting the right data in terms of staff time, staff expertise, dedicated time to these non-city cases. And then we can actually project something that's reasonable, and then the fair share is asked then by all the parties to the interlocal.
The quick answer to that is most of our documentation will be done by computer. And what we do is we will take the number of investigators that we have and the number of cases that we have increased and see where we were when we had our own investigators and what it cost us to have those investigators function. And we would seek a comparative amount of money as to what it would cost to have another investigator added, because that's what you're looking at if we up those numbers, and we intend to ask for that if that's what happens.
And I guess I'm a supporter of the the hub. Your ability to be here is important too. So it's not just the cases that come in from the counties. It's to have that expertise and your history in this department or in this area. So I guess staff time, tracking the staff time dedicated to per cases, I think that would help inform, at least in my opinion, going forward on the budget. But thank you so much for your responses. I appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
I have one. Lonnie, how long has the Human Rights Commission been in place?
In place, it came into existence in 1956.
Led by South Bend, right?
Led by South Bend.
And I, as a member of South Bend City Government, I'm very proud that we've done that and we've taken that lead. It's taken the county a long time to just get up to speed on this. We're glad that they're there. If we don't have an interlocal to start, we can't hold them accountable. So I think the key is having the interlocal, and I think all of us as county residents have a right to ask for that in their budget as well. So I agree with Ms. White on this. So thank you. Any other council member? Nope. We'll open up to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of 1817, please come to the podium. Name and address, sir.
My name is Samuel Brown. I live at 222 East Navarre Street in the city of South Bend. I'm a Human Rights Commissioner. I understand by looking at the data and everything what the record is trying to get you council people to do. And it's, I know what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, John. You're worried about the dollars and the data showing that we need this. Well, right now, we wasn't going with the council, the county, and now that we are, it's getting really hard to say until we do this for a portion of time to actually give you the data you want. But in order to do that, we're still going to have to take someone over to get that data and take it away from something else. We don't have that big of a budget. So once we get that, we can really give you that data. I look at it, and I know what he's saying. And Mrs. White is right, and you're fairly right because you're trying to watch the money. But I hope you will be kind enough to give him what he wants so we can get this work done. We are now moving to the county to help the county, and I think that it's a good thing. There's a lot of things happening in the county that wasn't being reported. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come to the podium. Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak against 1817, please come to the podium. Again, seeing none. Turn back to council.
Move for the adoption?
Second.
Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember Broden?
Aye.
Councilmember Varner?
Aye.
Vice President Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Gordy?
Aye.
Councilmember Furley?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Preston? Aye. Councilmember McBride?
Aye.
President Scott?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 1818, please.
1818, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend designating certain areas within the City of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as the intersection of Sample Street and Franklin Street, South Bend, Indiana, 466, an economic revitalization area for purposes of an 8-year real property tax abatement for Franklin Street Technology Park, Inc.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, community investment sends this forward favorably.
Thank you. Presenter?
Yes, sir. Dan Buckenmeyer, Department of Community Investment, 14th floor of this building. Good evening.
Good evening.
Franklin Street Technology Park. I left my... And I was going to try to be quick. Okay, so this rendering is again an early concept. Might not be the final look, but it is what is proposed for the corner of Sample Street and Franklin. This will eventually become, after 3 phases, 3 buildings divided up for light industrial or tech utilization. The first phase we see here is about 30,000 square feet. It will be divided into 5 to 15,000 square foot sections, depending on how rent prospects are looking as it is built. It will be a total $3 million at least private investment over about 4 years on land that was purchased from the city's redevelopment commission at $84,000. That price was reached in our normal procedure of getting a few assessments and taking the average of that. It was bought at that price. Well, there won't be direct jobs. This is a spec building, so it is built for future tenants, but we anticipate that at least 60, if not more, jobs will be created or retained in the South Bend area by building this. DCI is recommending an 8-year phase-in tax abatement, so it will, the abatement amount will lessen over those 8 years. It will result in $438,000 of abated taxes over that time, but there will be at least an estimated $137,000 paid in taxes in that same period. I think that sums it up in a quick summary. I also have the petitioner, Ms. Ann Hayes, here, if you have any questions for her or myself.
Ms. Hayes, a quick, brief statement, please. Name and address.
Thank you. Ann Hayes, representing Franklin Street Technology Park, 814 Marietta Street, South Bend, 46601. I think Dan provided a great overview. Our company has been working with Dan and his team at the city for several months as we've worked on this. We hope to start construction on this initial building, this 30,000 square foot building, shortly after closing, which should take place in May or June of this year.
Okay, thank you.
Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
No, just like I said today, I look forward to working with you as a council person for that district. I would like to have been included in those discussions, and so I'd like for us to move forward, because anything that comes to that area, I'd like to be able to talk to the people and be aware of that and not be caught by surprise. So I appreciate
Absolutely.
that.
Thank you. We look forward to working with
Is
you
that in
as
the form
well.
of a question?
No, just a comment.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll open up to the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of 1818, please come to the podium. Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak against 1818, please come to the podium. Again, seeing none, turn it back to council.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Ms. Fowler.
Councilmember Varner?
Aye.
Vice President Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Gordy?
Aye.
Councilmember Furley?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Preston?
Aye.
Councilmember McBride?
Aye.
Councilmember Broden?
Aye.
President Scott?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 1819, please.
1819, A resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend designating certain areas within the City of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as 320 East Colfax Avenue, South Bend, Indiana, 466, as an economic revitalization area for purposes of a 6-year real property tax abatement, commercial property located at the Work Partners LLC.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, Community Investment sends this forward favorably.
Thank you. Presenter?
Yes, sir. Still Dan Buckenmeyer from DCI, 14th floor of this building. So before us here, the petitioner is Wharf Partners. The project is known as 320 at the Cascade. This rendering, if we're looking at the picture, we're talking specifically about the larger building pictured on the right, which is going to be phase one of a multi-phase project. This phase will be about 77,000 square feet of mixed use. It will be commercial on the lower floor and residential on upper floors. Private investment of over $19 million is going to go into the building of this structure. And I'll let the petitioners detail a little bit about what that means in terms of the structure and utilization of materials. We've got a very low estimate, but I mean, again, with indirect jobs, because again, this is a spec project as far as the commercial side, we say 20 or so indirect jobs, but if you figure that with the floor plate they have the size of a restaurant and or 2 or 3 other small retail establishments, we'd be easily surpass that amount of jobs for our South Bend residents. We are recommending a 6-year tax abatement, and this is important to note that this is again on the commercial elements only. The abatement will not apply to any of the residential abatements. Those residential condos would be paying taxes. So during the time of the abatement, again 6 years, $432,000 is the estimated amount that would be abated in taxes. However, there would still be over $1.4 million in taxes paid during that same abatement period. And as to a question, Dr. Varner, from this afternoon, in terms of TIF payback, we anticipate that will happen in roughly 9 years and 3 months from the start of the project. So the petitioner, again, Mr. Perry, is here, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Perry, a brief statement, please. Name and address first.
Thank you. Frank Perry, Managing Member, Wharf Partners, address 3617 McKinley Avenue, South Bend. Happy to be here tonight to present the project, the Cascade, first phase. We're excited about it. It's been a long time that property sat vacant, but we're working with the city and finding a recipe that makes it work. We're excited that we're going to bring something that's going to bring life into that piece of property. It dovetails with everything else that's going on, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
Great, thank you. Council members, any questions? Not yet. No questions? Thank you. We'll open up to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of 1819, please come to the podium. Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak against 1819, please come to the podium. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council. Ms. Preston, you have a comment?
I just want to thank you. It's nice to hear that, developers were taking their time and working with the city to come up with what sounds like even more desirable plan than what it had originally proposed. So appreciate that. Appreciate community investment and, looking out for us. Also, it's just nice to see that if we're going to give an abatement during that period, we're actually, there's going to be more taxes paid than abated during that period, so that's helpful. I appreciate that the abatement is only on the commercial space and not on the residential. So I do appreciate those pieces. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. White?
Yes, I would like just to thank the developers. I can recall when this particular project was being birthed, and I really commend you for hanging in there and continue to work, and to have this result is just wonderful. I can't wait until it's up and running. So we appreciate your commitment to the city, but also the work that you've done and will continue to do on behalf of our citizens.
Thank you.
I would also like to, having you and Mr. Tanzico both working together, it was nice to see that as the developers come together and reach out because the benefit is both of you and it benefits the city. I told you I like that design earlier right there by the river and with the businesses there along with all the other developments and eating places. It really is going to add a different flavor to downtown, which is something that we haven't had. We never had that. So that's going to be great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Council, any motion?
Motion
Just one comment.
Oh,
Sorry.
hold on, Ms. Broden.
Thank you for your investment and welcome to the 4th District.
It is.
Motion for adoption.
Second.
Ms. Fowler.
Vice President Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Forty,
Aye.
Councilmember Furley,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Preston,
Aye.
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Rhodes,
Aye.
Councilmember Barner,
Aye.
President Scott,
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. I will entertain a motion to rise and join the committee of the whole.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Hey, should we continue,
Yeah, 14, 18. The other one was a resolution. 14 was 5, 16.
yeah, continue that one, yeah.
529.
Oh, 529.
Yeah. Should we just get that out of the way right now? Or wait?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I'll first entertain a motion. I'm sorry. The Committee of the Whole is now in session. This is the portion of the council meeting where the full council meets as a committee. Actually, not tonight. I was going to say during each ordinance. The public will have an opportunity to comment, but we are continuing one ordinance, and the second ordinance is in the council portion only. So first, I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules to continue 1418.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Could you
Motion
specify
carries.
what day it's being continued to?
Just...
529.
And then I will entertain a motion to continue 1418 to 529.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 518, which as a reminder for the public again is in the council portion only.
Public hearing on an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance for property located at 3527 Lincoln Way West, Councilmanic District Number 1 in the city of South Bend, Indiana. The council portion only.
Thank you. Just as a reminder to the public, council portion only means there will not be any public comment. We'll remind the public to please be respectful. That means no applause, no comments, no speaking out of turn. With that, we discussed during the informal session that we would provide an update, myself and Councilmember Preston, and then the petitioner has an opportunity to address the written commitments that were proposed. With that, I'll start. So Councilmember Preston and I had an opportunity to meet with the adjacent parcel owners. I'll just say that I really appreciate both sides' willingness to meet and have a good and what I thought was a productive discussion. Following that, met with the attorney for the petitioner. We reviewed written commitments. Those were submitted to the council, and a statement from the adjacent parcel owner was also submitted to the council regarding their opinion on the matter. And I'll turn it over to Councilmember Preston for any other thoughts.
Just again, want to thank the two parties. This was something that I know I specifically requested, an opportunity to come together and maybe be able to work some things out so we can exist peacefully in the same space. And I think we had a great conversation, so just appreciating both parties being willing to come to the table. What it means, what it takes.
And to the petitioner, would you like me to distribute the latest amendment to the remainder of the council at this time?
Please.
Okay.
What's that?
Just a couple changes.
Any of that from tonight?
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
Bianca has it. Yep.
Did the attorney have a copy of this?
Yes. And just as a note, if the council is reviewing, minor changes were made to item 2, made to item 6, and item 7 and item 8 were added.
Could you go over those?
Sure. And again, I apologize, we did not have the ability to redline in PDF. The first sentence of item 2 has been amended, and the first sentence of item 6 has been amended, and again, item 7 and item 8 were additions.
How many more copies do we have? 2. No, can we have a copy that's given to the media?
Sure.
Can we have, or make sure, because, just so they all can get it?
Someone's going to go over these specific changes.
I think they're going to go over, you want to go to changes, they're going to go over the amendments. If you have any specific questions over the changes.
Well, I would like to reconcile, if someone could reconcile what was in our boxes that had the blue line
Sure.
versus what we are now receiving,
Sure.
please.
Okay, as an update, all blue line recommendations were accepted, so those are now non-blue line. And in item 2, the words "make reasonable efforts to" were removed. In item 6, the words "work in good faith with" were removed, and inserted in their place was "take steps to address reasonable concerns identified by." Following the word "neighbor," the word "to" was removed, and the word "and" was inserted. And like I said, items 7 and 8 have been added. Take your time to review, and we'll hear from the petitioner. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Gavin, repeat, so that's 6 and 2 mainly, right?
Yeah, 2, 6, and then 7 and 8 were additions.
7 and 8, all right.
So with that, we will turn it over to the petitioner.
Thank you. Jenny Weisberger with Women's Care Center, 360 North Notre Dame Avenue, 46617.
And as a reminder, you can, because we have already heard most testimony, if you'd just like to focus on the written commitments provided and any amendments, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
We have worked hard since the last council meeting to address questions raised by council members and specifically to demonstrate in action the commitments we made 2 weeks ago. Number 1, we are good neighbors. At the request, as you mentioned, at the request of council members Ehrlich and Preston, we met with representatives of Whole Women's Health with the express goal of creating an environment of safety and peaceful coexistence. We met in good faith and have followed that meeting with the series of written, legal, binding commitments which you have all seen or are seeing now. We will not allow protesters or protesting, and we will ask anyone in the public right-of-way in front of our property to leave. We will not support protesting by constructing outbuildings, putting up signs, or speakers. We are categorically 100% opposed to protesting. We create peaceful environments. We will visually separate ourselves from the proposed clinic by moving our drive as far west as engineering and zoning will allow. Our signage will be no larger than the sign on the current property adjacent to us, and it will only describe the services we provide. We are good neighbors. At the meeting, I exchanged business cards with the Clinical Services Director of Whole Women's Health, so that if there ever are questions or concerns that arise, we can contact each other and address them. The meeting was respectful and productive. These written commitments are binding to the property. We are not moving. We are proposing an investment of over $500,000 to support the women and families of the West Side, and we will stay there, just as we have for the last 34 years. 1 week ago today, we provided council members Ehrlich and Preston with an executed agreement. We did not hear anything in response until noon today from area planning staff who had some concerns about enforceability. We thank them for bringing them to our attention. We have addressed these in the revisions you have received today. The most important thing that we did was to maintain this council's control over any changes we make in the future. Although Whole Women's Health has not embraced our petition to be next door, we did make an agreement with both them and the city that we will abide by our commitments to create peace and safety, because that is good for all women. Council members Furlick and Preston, we appreciate you bringing us together with representatives of Whole Women's Health, because it will make our relationship moving forward more positive and prevent the situations you're concerned about. We are committed to every woman and family in need on the West Side. At the last council meeting, members Davis and McBride asked us about our clients at Chapin who struggle with transportation. Our President, Ann Mannion, committed to keeping Chapin open 2 days a week so that no family would feel left behind. Last week, we approached a donor, a longtime resident of the West Side, who is significantly supportive of our expansion to 3527 Lincoln Way West. This family agreed to underwrite operations at Chapin indefinitely. Thank you, Council Members McBride and Davis, for challenging us. You made us think. On behalf of those families, we are deeply grateful. The care we will provide at 3527 Lincoln Way West is a critical benefit to South Bend. A scientific poll commissioned by Big Idea Company showed that 99% of the voting public of South Bend supports Women's Care Center. 88 support our rezoning petition, 10.8% have no opinion on our rezoning, and only 1.2 oppose it. The women we serve feel overwhelmingly supported by our care. Our Google reviews show an average of 4.9 stars in Michiana. The medical and social service community has spoken to the health and wellness benefit of our care. They support our location at 3527 Lincoln Way West as directly benefiting
Ms. Huntsberg, I apologize. Just as a reminder, please stick to only the written commitments provided and no further testimony that was already shared.
Okay. I would, as a part of our commitments, as our statement of commitments, we are addressing the concerns that have been conveyed to you in the past few days, and I would like to speak to those. We are not an anti-abortion group like those portrayed on late-night TV. We exist to offer women choice. At the last council meeting, Councilmember Vorty asked about our care for women considering abortion. I think the opposition letter from Whole Women's Health describing a client's experience of women's care
And again, just please only address written commitments, and if your comments on written commitments are finished, that's okay too.
Well, I think that part of our written commitments is a commitment to the community and to Whole Women's Health about our treatment of clients and our treatment of clients who come both to Women's Care Center and who find themselves at the abortion clinic. So I think that it's important to address that specific concern.
Okay, make sure it's addressed to the written commitments. If you want to address the written commitment specifically, that's okay.
Okay.
I've already done
And I think the council feels you've already done that.
Yeah.
Okay, then I will, then I'll take, and well then, I guess if any of the council members have questions regarding our care specifically our care for women, as was brought up in some of those questions, I would be most happy to address those.
Okay. At this time, thank you. At this time, we will take any questions on the written commitment specifically from council members, if there are any questions. Yes, President Scott.
Just one. Was the women's whole health, what was their take on this? Have they seen any of this, or is this
I believe
just
you,
from Women's Care
I
Center?
believe you received a letter regarding
Sure.
their statement. And that has, to my knowledge, it has not changed.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So, a letter after 7 and 8 were added, and the change was made to 2. I'm just trying to track what documents. Make sure we're all looking at the same documents.
I'm sorry.
I want to make sure we're all looking at the latest documents, and if there are parties to the documents, I want to make sure they are in receipt of the same documents. We were just handed a change post-committee, I understand. I might be wrong on that. And you have clearly identified the changes within 2, 6, 7, and 8. I just want to make sure that all parties to this document have reviewed it. We have received a letter, but I think it predates this, or am I missing an additional letter?
I think the letter you received does predate this, but at the same time, all council members have an opportunity to receive this, as well as the petitioner has had an opportunity to receive this.
Mr. Chair, can I address that?
Sure.
All parties to this agreement, to these commitments, are the city of South Bend and the Women's Care Center.
Okay.
Right.
And then a question?
Sure.
Are we entertaining those?
Yep.
So I'm tracking the changes, and 2 and 6 I follow, 8 I follow. I don't exactly understand what, and maybe it's a typographical error, but what is intended with item number 7? If we could review that out loud, and then perhaps whoever interjected this as a...
First of all, may I respond to that?
Sure. Yes. Thank you.
The last changes, the
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Name and address, please. Sorry.
Yeah, we kind of know you, but still for the record.
No.
There are strangers of yours.
I'm sure that if I've done this 100 times, I've forgotten 99, so thank you. My name is Richard Nussbaum. I'm an attorney practicing law here in South Bend at 210 South Michigan, 5th floor of the Plaza Building in downtown South Bend. Number 7 and number 8, number 6 and number 2, those changes were all directed to us from the council. And the blue changes that you saw were changes that we made in response to what area plan comments. So those are why the changes. Specifically with regard to number 7, it involves the enforcement of these commitments. So if enforcement has to take place, and the Women's Care Center is not the prevailing party, in other words, if the enforcement action is brought forward and the Women's Care Center is found to be at fault, the Women's Care Center is required to pay all the costs of that enforcement. That's the purpose of that number.
Could you please then read 7? Because I am not understanding that from what is written there, and I just want to make sure.
Unfortunately...
Pardon me?
Is there a typo?
Yeah, it's pretty significant. I'll just read it. 7, owner will pay for cost of enforcing compliance of commitments, period, if owner is not the prevailing party. So there's something wrong there with those 2 sentences. What do we want to commit?
It should be one sentence.
Yeah, it should be one sentence. There was no comma or period.
Should be a comma. But it is if owner is the prevailing party?
It's not the prevailing.
It says it.
If owner is, shouldn't be is.
Okay, so, Mr. Nussbaum, could you please read how you would like for that to read, please?
Well, I actually suggested the language, so...
Okay,
I mean, in terms of adding the if the owner, which is Women's Care Center, is not the prevailing party. So in other words, if a cost of enforcement is brought, and generally that's going to be brought by the Area Plan Commission, owners within 300 feet, the City of South Bend, or another entity withstanding will be brought against Women's Care Center. We're not going to bring the cost, so we're not, but if we are not the prevailing party in that case, then we pay the cost. In other words, if the enforcement action is found to be valid, and we are ordered to do something that we weren't doing or did do, then we're responsible for the cost. It's an obligation we're taking on ourselves. And the words prevailing party are used because that's a term of art in the law that is widely defined within many cases. So the court will be able to allocate who is and who is not the prevailing party, so the cost of enforcement will be able to be allocated.
Thanks for clarifying.
Anybody else read
I'm not reading it. I thought you were talking, I'm glad you clarified, because I read it as like, let's say there were protesters, and we had to call the police out and enforce them, removing them from the property. That's why I didn't understand the prevailing party stuff, but I thought, okay, there is a cost when police have to be called, which, could be a real issue if that's constant, and that you would pay or reimburse the city somehow for that. That's not what you're saying.
No, that is exactly what I'm saying. Let's use that as an example.
Okay.
We have committed to you that we will not allow protesters on our property. If there are protesters on our property, and the police are called, and there has to be an enforcement where those protesters are removed, and there's a cost because the police were called, or there's a cost because a lawyer had to be hired to get an order, or if there's court costs or anything like that, we pay those, because that's our obligation.
Thank you again.
And I will entertain a motion to remove the period in the middle of that sentence and make the if lowercase.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Thank you. We are still open to questions regarding the written commitments from council.
Just for the sake of clarification, when you make the commitment, because I believe it was in writing, that you agree to ask anyone in the public right away to cease or to, that's the extent of what you can do, because it's public right away. I want people to understand that that's the extent of your responsibility, and there would be no cause. And I mean, it just, that's as far as you can go with it. Their expectations cannot exceed that. But I'm afraid if people don't read that right, their expectations might. So let's make that clear, and I think we're good on that. Thank you.
Cool. Any other questions from council at this time? Seeing none, the question for...
I'm sorry, I do have a question.
Okay.
Is it possible to ask the final change, these final changes, the four referenced, or handed out in reference this evening that we've had much discussion on, were those reviewed by the area plan staff as zoning administrator, and certainly a role within enforcement?
I spoke to Ms. Smith, who was the one who contacted me about the requested changes, and she found them to be acceptable.
Okay, could I have her address that question, please, specifically, the four changes?
Can we get a copy for her?
Yeah, they got extras on the table, all our cards do.
This was all done last week.
From an area plans commission staff and the zoning enforcement staff, I don't believe these would impact us at all. They deal more with their willingness to incur the costs. So this would most likely come into play if there was some kind of lawsuit or somebody from the 300 parties pursued them. And there's really no cost on our end if we send them a letter, but I suppose if we ended up in legal action, it would cover our costs as well. But we have no concerns about those two items.
And then just a reaffirmation, all of these commitments stay with the property, whether they are there for 5 years or 30 years, any subsequent purchaser and owner of that property would have to come before the council for this change?
Correct.
To remove these commitments?
Correct. The written commitments are recorded in the recorder's office. They become essentially a deed restriction, in essence, on the property, and any modifications would have to go in front of the Area Plan Commission, and by this one, in addition, the council.
Thank you very much.
With that, the question portion is closed. We will now go to council members for comments. I will remind council members that we had extensive comment during the last meeting. I'd ask that council members keep their comments to only new material for the purpose of comment section now. And sorry to always do this to you, Councilmember Preston. Is it okay if we start with the 2nd District?
Actually, since this is close to and near in my area, I'd like to defer and come towards the end.
Sounds good. Councilmember Brown, no comment? Councilmember Broden?
I thought if we had made comments last time, we were going to be last. I'll appreciate taking that opportunity.
Sure.
Thanks for relatively
Dr. Varner?
I offered last time to support it because I looked at it as a zoning issue. I remain with that thoughts, and I will continue to support it this evening if it comes to a vote.
Okay. I will just briefly say I do really appreciate both parties being willing to at least have a dialogue, and I do think that the written commitments represent a move in the right direction and at least alleviate my concerns as it relates to the 5 criteria. So I will be supporting. However, I would like to make a note that any council colleagues that perhaps make a decision to not support the zoning request is certainly not making a decision to not support a certain organization within the community. There are certain reasons why council members interpret 5 criteria different ways, and just want to make sure that's clear to all the people in the room here today.
Thank you. The way I look at it is if it was the shoes were on the other hand, and the Women's Care Center was already there, and a abortion clinic wanted to move next, and they met the zoning requirements. The zoning requirements are what we have to consider, and the zoning requirements are there no matter who that is. You have to have fairness in both issues in the way I look at it. And so the zoning requirement would go, or if it's the women's care, whichever way. And so the zoning requirements is the way we will move forward, therefore I will support.
I don't have much to say beyond what I said 2 weeks ago. Only that I don't think I said much about appreciating all the work that everyone's done to state their positions, to educate us, to then show a willingness to get together and try to find some common ground. I think it's clear, if I didn't emphasize that enough last week, it is first and foremost a zoning issue, and if it's just looked at that, I think definitely we ought to approve it. All the other issues and concerns that come in, I think, are important and can't be ignored, but I think the services provided by Women's Care, and until this all started, I didn't really know what they did. I knew where they were, and I'd seen the signs, but I really didn't know. And now I think it's a vital service, and to oppose this does a disservice to people who may find themselves having to make that kind of decision. That I might personally be, it sounds trite to say, right-to-life Democrat, but I am personally, but I also respect the law and respect women's choice. And if they choose to, if they choose to go one way or another, that's their choice and that's the law, and so be it. But this is a zoning issue. I'm glad that organizations like Women's Care can actually help in a very difficult, I think, decision that people have to make.
So that's all I have to say. I will be supporting.
Chair, I'd like to defer my comments to last since it is my district. Sure.
Well, I sincerely appreciate each and every one of you and all your efforts. If anyone were to say that zoning issues are easy, I would beg to differ. As we begin to look at the standards that have been set before us, they're not black and white. I believe that it was important for the Women Care Center, the whole Women's Health and the Women's Care Center, that you had opportunity to come together and to have a conversation and hopefully to reach a level of consensus. I believe that all have worked in good faith. I'm very pleased that a number of written commitments were agreed upon. I would like to personally thank Councilwoman Regina Williams-Preston and Councilmember Gavin Furley for the work that you've done in meeting with a number of individuals and coming out with the written commitments that we have. Please note that a vote in favor or a vote against should not be viewed as an issue or be viewed that we support one particular effort or that we support, that we're in opposition in regards to the Women's Care Center or the whole women's health. And that we are making a decision about the services or the population that's being served. It is a zoning issue. And again, I began to look at the representatives of these districts and their concerns and weighing that out as well. I would like to also say that all of the issues were valid. The concerns in terms of safety, the concerns in regards to the impact on the neighborhoods and the values, all of those were valid concerns, and I do appreciate all the hard work and the efforts that were given to really address these concerns. Please note that in the end, based upon the final vote, a vote in favor or a vote against should not be viewed that there is not support of the end result. I think it's very exciting, but also very, as you begin to look at the process, democracy, that's why we have 9 council members. And so whether the vote is 5-4, 6-3, or 9-0, what is important is that this council has always come together and that we've worked to ensure that whatever the vote may be, that we have a commitment to work to ensure that the developer, the efforts, and the services are implemented, and that we have the resources to ensure that the issues that have been raised will be addressed. I think it's very important to note also for this council that as we begin to take action on any initiative, be it a bill, a resolution, that we have operated at a level of respect, and I think that's important, that I respect each and every one of the council members. I respect your opinion. It's not personal. We just see things differently. But the end result is going to be that each and every one of us have to have a commitment to ensure that whatever the vote might be, that is implemented successfully, that we support the districts in which any of the developments may find themselves in, and that the vote is not personal. And so that's why I'm at.
Thank you. With that, Councilmember Broden.
Sure. Senator Councilmember Davis's comments, if the petitioners were reversed, if it were the clinic here before us as a petitioner, I'd be voting for their land use change on this particular piece of land, because it is about, in my opinion, land use. And the plan supports that. Staff supports it, DCI, area plan, the commission, the documents, the maps, and I think more importantly for my reference point, our plan was actually developed in 2014, and I think it benefits our community as a whole to actually pay strong attention to those plans, not in the absence of the importance of the other criteria, but my remarks last time addressed the other criteria, and I do think that this does fit the other criteria. I am appreciative, too, of everyone's stated position, whether it was in written communications, phone calls, at Martin's, wherever you found any of us, or me in particular, or even coming here and standing, and that's an intimidating thing, I know, to stand in front of that lectern and to lay such an emotional content and opinion. So I thank you. And then, of course, there are so many people who've come out over the course of the 2 meetings on this, who sat in the seats and are no less, no less to be recognized for raising your hands in agreement or in support of some of the folks who sit there. So you have been heard, your points have been considered by myself, and I know respectfully by the other members of this council. I do also recognize the tremendous amount of additional work that was done to put together these commitments, and in my opinion, to firm them up. So I thank council members Regina Preston as well as Gavin Furlick for their efforts, and the Women's Care Center for your diligence in working and bringing those forth. I do think that within those commitments there is an amazing amount of documentation, if you would, that supports a real commitment to control what you can control as a neighbor. And for my understanding, my takeaway from the changes from last week to this week is that you have offered this council and our community as a whole a commitment that covers 100% of your property. And you've tried to anticipate possible actions that may or may not occur. And it's of note to me that you have, in some ways, given up the First Amendment rights, your First Amendment rights, to a certain degree. So I thank you for that. That is an outstanding effort on your part, and you've done it in good faith, and I appreciate that. Last comment is our community has terrific, in the base of that word, terror, terrifically high infant mortality rates, poverty rates, educational challenges, child care challenges, affordable health care and mental health care coverage challenges. As a state adoptions foster care system, to many, to my estimation, many things that need a tremendous amount of work and a tremendous amount of energy. Their policies and funding that's really needed to support women, children, and families. And I cannot have my comments go tonight absent of calling us all, regardless of what side of the issue we are on, zone or not zone, rezone. To me, that's the real ball. That's the real responsibility that we have as a community. And thank you for indulging my comments on that. And that's a 3, in order to beat that and to make to move the needles on many of those things that I mentioned, that's a 365-day-a-year task for our community. So thank you.
With that, Austin?
I said I wasn't going to say anything. So I'll try to be very brief because I can't not say anything. Sorry. This is not a right to life issue. It's not a right to choice issue. It's a right to live in a peaceful community issue. I said I live near and around. I have spent lots of time talking to people who live near and around behind those corridors, near in that area. I appreciate the efforts on both sides to come to the written commitments that we came to. But I'm not convinced that these will be enough to allay my concerns about this being responsible development. The hypothetical scenario offered by my esteemed council members, I just want to respectfully disagree. I don't believe that a clinic would come before the council to ask for rezoning in the first place, to be next door to the Women's Care Center, because they understand the detrimental impact of these two institutions operating in close proximity to one another. This is a zoning issue, and it's about development that fits into the neighborhood. There's evidence right here in our community of what happens when these two institutions are next door to one another. And I feel that rezoning to allow them to be near or close will reduce the quality of life in the area for residents and for local businesses that exist there. The zoning questions require us to consider the most desirable locations. Were there more desirable locations overlooked, and how this whole effort fits in. While, this is not about the work of the Women's Care Center, this is not questioning their commitment to women and their issues. And while this location may be desirable for the Women's Care Center, I do not believe it's desirable. In fact, I know from talking to residents and business owners, it is not desirable to people who live and work in the area. There's a credible concern that locating here will cause harm and will create a conflict zone in an area that's already wrought with issues. It's been said that the presence of the Women's Care Center may actually suppress the amount of protests, but again, there's precedence right here in our community where Women's Care Center was near a clinic, and it did not have a calming effect on protesters. So again, I do appreciate all the work that's gone into this. I thank the council members for many phone calls at all kinds of hours, and appreciate everyone in the community on all sides who have really taken the time to weigh in on this issue. And with regards to my understanding of the criteria, I will be voting against this rezoning tonight because I do not believe that it is responsible development and have a lot of concerns about the city.
Thank you. Council President Scott?
Thank you. I talked quite a bit the last meeting, so this will be very brief. I concur with Ms. White and Ms. Regina Williams-Preston. Spot on your comments. I appreciate all the work that went into it. I appreciate the commitments. If this passes, myself as a district person will make sure that it follows those commitments and it's best quality of life for everybody. But there are commitments that cannot be made. The First Amendment is the First Amendment. You can ask people to leave all you want, but if they're standing on a sidewalk, they don't have to leave. So that's where I see the detriment of the quality of life within this. All 5 points I can argue legally why not to zone this, but I'll give you three quick ones, and I've said this before. It's an erosion of the residential units within Lincoln Way, part of the master plan. You want to look at a master plan map, that's fine. It's off by one property. The whole Women's Health Alliance did exactly what they were supposed to do. They took a property that was zoned properly and bought it moved in. And here we are with an exception. And here we are again and again on Lincoln Way, where DCI comes up with a master plan. We've seen this time and time again, and the master plan's not even followed. And it continues to erode what's going on in Lincoln Way. It is not proactive, it's always reactive, and here we are. So this is democracy at work. I appreciate everybody coming out. If it was clear-cut, it wouldn't even be before council. So it is part of that interpretation. It's part of how we understand the rules and the law. And I am voting strictly on zoning alone. This has nothing to do with the two organizations whatsoever. This is zoning and erosion, once again, of Lincoln Way, of the residential areas, which is desperately needed, just like the business. And there's plenty of good commercial real estate on Lincoln Way to help develop nodes, which DCI could have been at the table as part of TIF district. We could have done so much better. Thank you.
With that, I will entertain a motion from council.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Roll call vote, please.
Sure.
Councilmember Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Furley.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Nay.
Councilmember Preston.
Nay.
Councilmember McBride.
Nay.
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
President Scott.
Nay.
4 to 5.
The recommendation moves forward.
It's 5 to 4.
5-4.
I will entertain a motion to rise and resolve from the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Please. Not done yet. Hold a second. It's not. We still have third reading? We still have third reading? The full council is now back in session. If you are going to leave, please leave quietly. We still have a council meeting going on. Thank you. Ms. Fowler, would you please give reading to 0518? Oh, point of order.
What?
We didn't accept the written commitments as amended.
Can we do it now?
Can we do it? Do we need to do the recommendation based on the written commitments?
Or can we just amend it now?
Or can we just amend it now?
Yeah,
I think we can just amend it now.
Yes, Scrivener's there.
Yes, well, we can
A
go
motion
ahead.
to accept the written commitments
As amended.
as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Ms. Fowler, please give reading to 0518.
0518. Third reading on an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance for property located at 3527 Lincoln Way West.
Hold on.
Let's get it here.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna give it to White County.
Officer Glahn, would you please tell them to be quiet?
They haven't voted yet. Please be quiet. Please be quiet.
That's disrespectful.
All right, Ms. Fowler, would you please give reading to 0518?
0518. Third reading on an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance for property located at 3527 Lincoln Way West, Council Manning District Number 1 in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
Just for the record, amend as it was in committee of the whole, accept the motion? So moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Thank you.
Motion for passage.
Second. Ms. Fowler.
Councilmember Furley.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Nay.
Councilmember Preston.
Nay.
Councilmember McBride?
Nay.
Councilmember Broden?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Vice President Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Gordy?
Aye.
President Scott?
Nay.
5-4.
Thank you. Thank you all. We will now move to first readings, which we have none. And now we'll move to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business?
Yeah, you said, in early meetings, we're going to invite Mr. Eric Corvar to come to our next meeting to talk about the,
Curb sidewalks and paving.
Yes, please.
And the funding.
Yes, and funding.
And funding.
Okay, we'll do that.
I appreciate it.
Also, we'll probably have a report at 7 o'clock meeting of line bikes.
Okay.
So, just kind of update status. The owners want to do that. So, also, I want to commend Karen White and Sharon McBride on their 3rd District tour and those council members that went along and clerks. Very eye-opening. We're going to put together one for the 1st District shortly. And I want to thank Oliver Davis and Transpo for getting the bus. I think that was excellent. Mr. Bordy.
Yeah, quickly, Public Works released the 2018 paving list earlier this afternoon. I presume that will be available online?
Yeah, well, all the council members got it too.
Okay, so
It was identified as tentative, I believe.
Well, they all are.
Well, so let's understand, yeah, there may be some change.
Any other unfinished business?
I would ask all council members who would like to have a bus tour to email me. If you go back and look at when we had a residential organizational meeting, we had identified some districts that we were going to really either have walking tours or bus tours. Please let me know so we can put this on the calendar. One thing that we're working on is having a calendar, because all of us are so busy. There's so many meetings, and, many times we could have one meeting and they're at 4 different locations. So our goal is to be as transparent, but also to ensure that we communicate amongst ourselves, but also with administration and within the community of these meetings. So email me when you would like to have a bus tour. It could be during the week or even on the weekend. Just let me know as soon as possible, and then I'll put that schedule out.
Great. All right. Anything else under unfinished business?
Justin,
go ahead.
President Scott, I just wanted to say thank you to council members who took the tour into the city clerk's office specifically for navigating that and setting it up, and to the residents, bringing all of them together was a great idea, and a tour. It was very enlightening, and I believe that a commitment from all the neighborhoods that they would like to work together to help one another out. So I could not be prouder of the council's support and the neighborhoods involved. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Broden.
Yeah, just a quick invitation. On Saturday at 10 a.m., Kelly Park is hosting some Arbor Day celebrations, a little bit late, but it appropriately will be an opportunity to celebrate really the public-private partnership that has occurred in that space. And it is located on Howard Street, but there will be some tree plantings, and I'm just invite individuals. It's a great story of grassroots neighbors really defining and raising dollars to create a really unique space, and with the help of the city administration and specifically the park department, and a shout out to John Martinez and his staff. So much has been done with folks within the neighborhood bringing their assets, whether it be cement layers, brick layers, cleanup crews from Notre Dame. So it really has been almost I don't want to cut short the amount of time, but it's been well over a 5-year plan in the making. And if you haven't been by there, it is now really an awesome park and in a great location, and this would be a nice opportunity to come and take a view of that.
Great.
Have one more announcement. If I'm not mistaken, there will be a neighborhood cleanup this Saturday for River Park from 8 to 10.
10 to 2.
10 10 to noon.
Sleep in.
Meet at Ironwood and Pleasant.
So if council members are available, put on your tennis shoes, bring your gloves, and let's clean up.
One other thing, NNN had their cleanup 2 weeks ago. Again, when we started that, it was 9 city blocks. It's up to 200 city blocks. But they did something for the first time. They, I don't think they got it quite done, but they mulched houses in about 15 blocks, which is part of Census Tract 6 with the lead issue. And one thing is they took lead samples before, and they're going to measure the effects of the lead samples afterwards, because mulching around houses keep down the dust, prevent lead. So it was a good program, very first program with that. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll report back on that.
Right.
So, all right, any new business? I think we covered it.
Yeah.
So, with that, we'll turn to privilege of floor. This is a chance where citizens can talk to the council. They have 3 minutes. Gavin Furlick will keep the time. Get a 30-second exit warning. You cannot speak on anything that was on the agenda tonight. You have to state your name and address. It has to do with things that are in purview of the council, or we can assign to administration. Laura Sullivan, I believe, is still here. Oh, she moved. Good. Okay, Sam, go ahead.
Okay, Samuel Brown, 222 East Duval Street, City of South Bend. I was on a residential neighborhood committee, first common council, and this only lasted a year. I want to sign up again to be more involved with my city neighborhoods. So I'm going to go to the clerk's office tomorrow morning, and I'm going to do the proper paperwork, because this one expired. And I'm hoping forward to the right people to get me on that committee again for another year, so I can try to help out my neighborhood. And what brings me to this, I talked to the neighbors yesterday. The young man, there's all kinds of stories. He said he only shot 15 guys, but it was more than that. I was in the 1600 block of College Street. It sounded like Babe Ruth. I mean, the people were really shook up. People running. There were people 2 to 3 blocks away was running and ducking behind anything they could. They didn't know where the bullets was coming from. I talked to the mayor briefly. I talked to the mayor of Government City. Briefly, even I want to keep the comments that me and him talked about between me and him. But I know he has a concern. Talked to the police chief, Bukowski, when he was in Washington, D.C. with the mayor. They had some activities going on in our community, and in our communities. We got to stop it. You know what? I don't know how to express it, but it's got to stop. Really. Summertime is coming. And now it's going to start getting hot. These little animals are not going to take over our city, start killing people, and we just sit back and say we're working on it. We got to treat them like they are treating us. We got to take charge. And I want to be involved. I don't want to be behind the scenes. I'm not going to run away from it. I want to work to it. I want to be out there. So that's all I got to say about that issue. In the park over there, that you were discussing, I'm optimistic and disappointed. Because when that park started, there were some new kids, and I know what the park was set up to do.
You have 30 seconds.
And it was beautiful, the way it ended. But I'm worried about the little kids that now just about graduating from high school that had a grade and made a videotape. Did you see the videotape?
I think I have, yes.
You have seen it?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, you think so? Okay. I'll leave it at that. The 30 seconds up, how many seconds I got?
6 it up.
Okay. I'll get you a copy of it. You know what I mean? I wish they had got it done for the $500,000, $600,000 houses that went up.
Now your time is up.
Good Child, 837 South 24th Street, River Park, South Bend, Indiana. It's a pleasure to be back. I got my lucky jacket on. Marion Nation Speaks. Lou Holtz's jacket from the Century Center. fits me good. I feel good at springtime out. I can't be any happier. It's the hottest day so far this year. And you know, we got the best week ever coming. And when I was sitting out there, I couldn't help but to realize that they said, you know, we got to take the needs, and we want to better our community. It's on your display for the mission statement, this council, and what we're doing here. To the highest priority, they say, with our founding fathers. And I bring this up because we do have the 16 magnificent 20 to 40 foot works of art, no place else, anywhere in the Midwest. And I bring up that trailblazer who people say, you know, that good child, he just runs and runs and runs and then try to catch him. And he keeps on running. And it's a wonderful feeling to be 68 and running for the American USA record in the mile, 5:29, because it's there, people. It's there. The founding fathers gave that beautiful park, proud park, Potawatomi Park, to the community. We have the magnificent carvings that we saved from those hundreds, some 200 and plus years old. All we're asking, my father, who came from Menominee, who came from the Indian Reservation, not one good child got to 3rd grade except him. 8 miles he would take his snowshoes to get off the reservation to get to 8th grade. West High, top class, war hero, World War II. 1 semester left after his flight school at Yale. Came back to South Bend in 46 and ran all the NISCO gas. We have a stadium. It's called the Olkowski Field. And we have the Good Child Trailblazer Track. We also have the Trailblazer Cross Country.
You have 30 seconds.
And all I'm asking people is to look at what we're talking about, the Potawatomi Nation. The proudest thing you could do for us here, being doing it right by the 29th of May, the best week ever. Let us get that flag up. We know it's not going to go next to the other 4 because they're putting up theirs now for the flag that shows the accreditation. It's right next to the 40-foot welcome. We'll put the flagpole up. We got the flag. All you have to say is thank you. That's it. And let us put it up. All I'm asking is just to let us know. You can't keep running it out on me.
And sir, your time is up.
Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you.
Again, I appreciate it.
Next name and address.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Isaac Hunt, 138 East Broadway, South Bend, Indiana. I came up here to talk about this new Gateway Center and the trailers that's being put on and the rezoning that's going on, or being discussed. The residents, we want the Gateway Center. We feel that it's something that's good, right? But we don't want it on Michigan Street. If you look at what we have over there, we are overpopulated with social services. And I work at social services, so you should think that I would want it, right? Right. But at the same time, why is not the rest of the city sharing in this, the social services and the issues in which we have? So right now, you got on the agenda for rezoning to be done for it. They telling us, the city is saying that this is not going there. This is just temporary. Anything that's not temporary, turn it into permanent. Right? So when you turn around and you look at it, you got JJC, you got Light Treatment Center, you got Broadway Church, you got the Plasma Center, right? We got all these things right in our general area, and I just got back from Washington, D.C. I came home, I had a homeless guy sitting in the middle of my yard peeing. He was sitting out peeing in the middle of my yard. This is all night, all day long. We can't let the kids out on Broadway, on Indiana and Carroll Street, so they can catch the bus. We got people urinating in the alleys and stuff. They breaking in the houses. And the idea is to put the Gateway Center right there on Michigan Street. Because we are more, they say that's but it don't make sense. How come we can't spread it out throughout the city? How come we can't put 2 trailers here, 2 trailers on the north side? What about 2 trailers on by Northern Eight? So everybody say that, everybody gets scared. But it's all right for me when I paid $105,000 for my house and I can't sell it for $40,000. And you raise my taxes. My property taxes went up. And I'm sitting there with a $105,000 house that's upside down. and y'all putting something that they want to put something else right on top of us again. And they came down to talk to us at our neighborhood association meeting. And I'm gonna tell you, I told them this is exactly what I said. I put it on record. If they put this gateway here, they think they got problems with the tapes. We're gonna be out there protesting every day because this is not fair to us as residents, as taxpayers in this community that's trying to build up our community. How much time I got left? 30 seconds. Okay. So we got new houses going up. We're trying to fix this neighborhood up. We got new houses going up right now. We got the United Way for to put $5 million of building over there on the southeast side. Daycare center. And you want to put a gateway there? We got a daycare center that's going to go up? Come on, think about this, y'all. And I'm not against it. I'm for it. I was on the committee. But we need to spread the wealth. We got the new center that Heritage put over there in Indiana. Come on now. Help us out, please.
Your time is up.
Thank you very much.
I've been by that. I've been by that.
My name is Harry Marsh. I live at 1520 South Carroll Street. I'm also here to speak about the trailers that are on South Michigan Street. Been in this neighborhood a long time, saw a lot of things come and a lot of things go. I've heard the word temporary hundreds of times, and I know that once electric and water gets hooked up to anything, that means that temporary is out the door. Please, please stop this. We don't need another social service on the southeast side. We don't need another place for the homeless to be where my wife and I can't sit on our front porch this morning on a beautiful morning and have a cup of coffee without having to get up and go in the house behind all the cussing and fussing and people coming out of the alley peeing and pooping and having sex in the garages. We don't need that. There's kids there that I got 3 grandkids that I can't let play in my yard because of the homeless situation on my side of town. But I don't hear anybody on the east side coming over and having the same issue. They tell us that there's not enough room on this Michigan Street corridor for it to be there, but all of a sudden the building next door went up for sale so that there's going to be enough room. Please stop it before it gets started. Before it goes any further, stop it. To make it possible for me and my grandkids to live a happy life, the same as you and your grandkids live a happy life. There's plenty of room right there at Ignition Park for those trailers to go. There's acres and acres and acres of room. Put them over there. If they're temporary, when they're done with them, they can move them or destroy them. But don't put them in my neighborhood, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, name and address, please.
Hello, Council. My name is Henry Miller. I reside at 229 East Broadway. And like the previous 2 gentlemen, my issue is the trailers on South Michigan. I'm not only a homeowner in the Southeast Corridor, but I'm also a business owner. And I'm tired of it. I mean, it's one thing to provide these people service, but after the service is done and over with, they still linger throughout the neighborhood, and we have to put up with that. We have children, we have grandchildren, in which we don't feel safe letting them go outside to play, and that should not be in any neighborhood. However, we seem to have, or we seem to be, the poster child for indigent services. Like Isaac stated, we have the homeless shelter, the JJC, the YWCA, we have the blood bank, we have Broadway Parish, and Life Treatment Center, and these people linger throughout our neighborhood all day and all night, and it only gets worse as the weather gets warmer. My thing is, we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago at Broadway Parish, and all I kept hearing that frustrated me was, we want to make it convenient. Well, to convenience a group of people that do nothing but take and don't contribute anything to the community is a problem, because you're inconveniencing the people that add value to the community. That's my issue. Those trailers do not need to go up, and I'm with Isaac. I will be protesting, and if the protesting doesn't work, I'll walk away from it all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next name and address.
Esau Harris, 201 East Broadway. I'm not going to repeat everything they said. It's the same thing. My wife grew up in the neighborhood, and just many issues. I came home one day, and she was sitting on the porch. She said a neighbor came by, or somebody homeless walking came by. She gave him a cup of ice. They wanted ice. So I said, you know what they want that for? She had no idea. The next day, the lady wants needles. I said, she's using opioid or heroin. So our kids can't go anywhere. The place that you're putting it on Michigan, across the street from the fire department. Emergency vehicles coming out of there. They don't care about walking across the street constantly. A main street coming into South Bend. That's what you see. You see the nice circle, and you go down the street and you see that. I mean, there's places you can put it away from that area. All over the city. It doesn't have to be on the main drag where people are at. We got property everywhere that's sitting vacant. I mean, please, do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Next name and address.
Pam Plays, 1106 Bellevue in the 3rd District. I want to thank Karen's wife and Sharon McBride and all the council members that came on Saturday to the bus tour. I think it was excellent for all the neighborhoods to get together. Particularly, it was excellent to see some of the areas in the 3rd District that we haven't seen before. We saw those trailers. They're pitiful. We have 1,000 houses in 1,000 days. Let's use some of those tracts of land. It can be contained. It doesn't need to all be in one spot. So I ask you to, I wholeheartedly appreciate what those gentlemen have said, and I agree with them. And I thank you for the opportunity to get together. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Yaka, you got anything for me to sign?
But I think it's important, and we move on, we make it work, but this is not. If it does, we come back and we, it's going
What is she doing these days?
Amazon business.
Oh, God, it's so good to hear. Well, I'll say, yes, hello from the president's end. I didn't recognize you over there, yeah? So are you still involved in any post-retirement? Yeah. What are you doing? Okay. For your mission? Good for you. Excellent.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So we're at Florida. Okay. We were just Josh and I were just in Florida for 4 days. It was a child welfare conference. So as a judge, first the football on the administrative side, on the town and paper. Tired of it. You gotta pay attention to what's happening in the neighborhood. Anyway, it was a good conference, but we had just, I want to give way the way, that's kind of like, I just come up with that. I'm the side of the support now. So she's on the other side, Ms. Margaret. Oh, but Pam, I'm gonna tell you, no, not the 1,000 houses, because now y'all moving all in my neighborhood. Oh, they're really lucky. In Sarasota. All right. So I have a daughter who is I think it's North Bay or something. That's near there, correct? Oh, yeah, I have a daughter down there. So good to see you again. We've often wondered. Okay.
Oh, my God. Where's the air conditioner? Jeez Louise.